With a domestic population of 350 million and 7.8 billion worldwide, we thank the 12 of you that listen to this garbage.
It's garbage, and I'll tell you why.
The Patriotically Correct Radio Show.
Eat me.
With Stu and Rich. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
If you have not had an opportunity to get over to thepcradioshow.com, I recommend that you do that. We blog over there. We deliver news stories over there. Anything that you missed previously on PC Radio, you can find it archived at thepcradioshow.com, as well as links to all of our wonderful sponsors. Johnson Jewelers in Woodbury, Minnesota. American Pride Roasters Coffee. And we have a new one coming up on the show this Friday. We will have a very exciting new sponsor, Richard. And yeah, and it's something that you and I can both definitely benefit from. As well as all of our loyal PC Radio listeners are going to be able to very, very much so benefit from not only just the physical location of this particular sponsor, but also just by the information that this sponsor is able to provide, which promotes wellness and health. And, you know, in a society that we're living in today, wellness and health for yourself is something that you definitely have to look out for because nobody else is. And although political elected representatives, and I learned that phrasing from my guest yesterday, Lindsay Ferris Martin, who so eloquently and so brightly calls them elected representatives. And the reason why she does that is because they're not officials and they're not leaders. Because we can see across the country that we're not being led. There is no leadership. There's no leadership in school boards. There's no leadership in city councils. There's no leadership from mayors. There's no leadership from governors. There's no leadership from the federal government right now. The only person that's actually leading right now is Donald Trump. And he's doing it despite being attacked from the very second that he came down that escalator. It's no secret that the deep state got very nervous about this and about his presidency from the very beginning. And so they counted him out. And they didn't really believe. I mean, rewind the tapes from all these people who seem to forget that there's video and audio recording devices in the room when they say things like, I will leave this country if Donald Trump is elected president. When they say things like, there's not a chance in hell that Donald Trump will be elected president. When they say things like, Donald Trump will never be the president of the United States. These are the very same people that are guaranteeing you positive results when they then get reelected or originally elected into office. Joe Biden, for example, who, by the way, is a very courageous leader.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
That is the guy who wants to be the president of the United States. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
Think about that. Joe Biden. Thank you, intern boy, for the sound effects. We appreciate that. Intern boy is he's really picked his game up. He fixed some of the technical problems. We don't have issues with your mic anymore. There he is, giving himself a little ping there. You know, the state of our country right now is something like, obviously, we never thought we would see before. There's no shortage of material for Patriotically Correct Radio, and there's no shortage of material for independent journalists to be broadcasting. And because the media, and I hate to sound like an echo chamber, but I have to say it every day because you got to wake up to the fact that the media is not only not telling you the story, but they're deliberately manufacturing a story and or deliberately covering up a story and then perpetuating and purposefully inciting rage against one another, division against one another, and violence and rioting and looting and burning in the cities that we have going on. And you get political groups like the Say Her Name people or the Say His Name people or Black Lives Matter or Antifa. I saw a video on Facebook, and I'm not sure what city this took place in. Maybe intern boy can grab this for me. But I saw in one city, I believe it was in Portland actually. Was it? It was. Okay, so it was in Portland where there was a line of police and they had their shields up. And they actually decided to make a forward move at a line of Antifa people. Antifa got destroyed. And that is the case because these are the basement dwellers. These are the mommy and daddy video game guys that come out after dark only, and they will never act alone. They have to be in a pack. They have a pack mentality because I don't know. Can I say that word? They're wussies. All right, we'll just use that. You know what I really want to say because that's what they are. And Dan Bongino, who I really like, he's former Secret Service. He was a former cop. He's now a pundit. He has his own show over at Bongino.com, I believe is what it is. But he went to the acceptance speech from the president at the White House, where, by the way, the only narrative coming out of the mainstream media, the lamestream media, the All Barack channel, the New Barack channel, the Communist News Network, and MSDNC, the only thing that you're seeing coming out of that, nothing about positive and unity, nothing about the message that President Trump delivered, which, by the way, I will agree the speech was long. I will agree that 70 minutes felt more like a State of the Union address, Rich, but I will also say that the content, in times like what we're going through, the President of the United States, people want to hear what he has to say, which is another indication of how he's actually leading from the front. And then you watch the basement-dwelling little girl, hair-sniffing, confused Joe Biden taking the stage and saying things like,
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
Yeah, think about it. And so he's saying profound things like that with his mask on in mommy's basement from his multi-million-dollar. You want to talk about privilege. I read the other day that Michelle Obama is depressed.
Oh, great. Good. Who gives a crap?
So let me articulate something. Okay, so she lives in like what, a $30 million home. Okay, she's got a book
20
deal.
Acre lot.
She's got a book deal that has provided her with countless millions of dollars. She's the former First Lady of the United States of America. She's married to the first illegitimate president, which history books will later tell us about, of the United States of America. But regardless, one of the most revered, I guess you would say, or one of the most well-known politicians in the history of our country. But she's depressed. Now, let's talk about what privilege really means. Oprah Winfrey, she claims to be this oppressed black woman. Isn't she like one of the most rich people in the world? And one of the most influential people in the world? You want to talk about privilege, okay? These people will tell you that the police are the problem. There is systemic racism amongst the police. Anytime the police get involved, they're the problem. And they all speak about this oppression. They are the privileged people. Now, they will then in turn take those police and, like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, put them on her block to protect her, and then take behind the official podium of the mayor of Chicago and say that she's unapologetic about that. That it should be widely accepted that she's a public figure, and so she needs that protection. But do black lives really matter to her? Do black lives really matter? Do police black lives matter, Rich?
No.
No. Do black conservative lives matter?
I don't think so, no.
No. Do black inner city gun violence victims' lives matter?
Absolutely not.
What about unborn black babies' lives? Do they matter?
Nope.
Not to these liberal progressive radicals. Do black small business owners' lives matter? Oh, no. Mm-mm.
Absolutely not,
No. So which black lives do matter? How about the non-compliant domestic abuse suspect, criminal rapist with felony warrants walking away from police, wielding a knife and diving into a car occupied by 3 black children? That's whose life matters. The murder suspect that Minneapolis police caught up to after relentlessly tracking him down in just 4 days, his life matters. But what about his victim? Have you heard about his victim, Rich?
No, I have not. I couldn't even tell you his name. I don't think it was ever released.
It was 61-year-old Eddie George Gordon of Rush City, Minnesota, who died from a gunshot wound to the head and neck in a parking ramp in Minneapolis. I bet you didn't know his name. And I bet most of you didn't know his name until I just said it. Where are the say his name people? Where is BLM? Where are the elected representatives screaming for justice in his name? One of those elected representatives is Minneapolis City Council member Jeremiah Ellison, who was quoted saying, MPD did not kill him, but people assuming they did is rooted in a deep distrust. He wrote, that distrust is our failure to own. That means your failure, Rich, my failure, the failure of white people. Seeing windows broken, he continues, and items stolen can be beyond frustrating, especially when all that rage was sparked this time by misinformation. But so often our policing institutions have themselves been the source of misinformation. We forfeited our goodwill, and this is the ugly cost. Remember, this is the man leading the charge to reform the Minneapolis Police Department. And there are several like him all over the country, like Mayor Lori Lightfoot, or the asshole in Seattle, or the feckless leaders in Portland, or in Atlanta, or in Houston, or in Los Angeles. Black lives matter? Not really. Black lives taken by white police officers matter. Black lives taken by fellow black people, however, do not matter. In the past 5.5 months, 1,586 people have been shot in Chicago. 4 of them were shot by the police. 4. Here's the kicker. The Chicago mayor is black. The superintendent of police is black. The Cook County State's attorney is black. The chief judge of Cook County Circuit Courts is black. The Illinois Attorney General is black. The Chicago Fire Department Commissioner is black. The Cook County Board President is black. The state Senate Majority Leader is black. The Illinois Lieutenant Governor is black. The Illinois Secretary of State is black. The Clerk of Circuit Court of Cook County is black. The Cook County Circuit Clerk is black. The Chicago Treasurer is black. The Chicago Police Board President is black. The Chicago Transit Authority President is black. The CEO of Public Chicago Schools is black. The commissioner of the Department of Water Management is black. And a huge number of aldermen, state representatives, and state senators are black. You would think, Rich, that this black hierarchy would actually do something about systemic racism against blacks. But no, they revel in their phony politics in the form of power because that's all that matters. That's what matters. The popular mantra, Black Lives Matter, is political jargon for black people shot and killed by police officers. And it used to be just by white police officers. But if you're a black police officer, you're not a black life. You're a blue life.
Blue life, yep.
Black lives don't really matter to these people, but they matter to me. They matter to you, Richard. And they matter to real street cops who prove that black lives matter to them every single day. On November 4th, when this whole thing is over, I will be most jealous of black people, who I feel sorry for. But on that day, I will be jealous because they won't have to hear from lying liberal Democrats for another 3.5 years.
Agreed.
Elected representatives is a term that was used by my guest yesterday in the first half when you were having problems from Hurricane Richard and you were unable to join us. But Lindsay Ferris Martin brought to my attention that she doesn't refer to these people as elected officials anymore because they're not officials. She doesn't refer to them as elected leaders anymore because clearly there is no leadership. They are elected representatives. And oftentimes I think what gets lost in the message is that they are supposed to be representatives of their constituency. They are supposed to be representatives of you and I. They are supposed to be representatives of every single person that lives in the jurisdiction with which they are supposed to represent. In which. But they do not. They represent a very small group of people. They represent based on racial lines. They represent based on political affiliation. They represent based on sexual orientation. They represent on hashtags. They represent using Twitter jargon and trending topics. And they jump from one hashtag to the next all day long, relentlessly and unapologetically throwing in your face that you should be apologetic for who you are based only on what you believe in and the color of your skin. There's nothing more divisive There is nothing that drives more hate. Things that we cannot control, like the color of our skin. Things that we cannot control, like the actions of our ancestors on both sides of the black and white spectrum. I cannot control the heinous acts by black people in our history any more than I can control the heinous acts by white people in our history. But as we oftentimes talk about, history books have been thrown out the window by educators who are actually political pundits. They are actually indoctrinators. Our young children are being indoctrinated. They're not being taught history, which is why they're so quick now. And this has been going on for a couple of generations now, which is why the result that we have today is a couple of generations of millennials that have been taught. It all started with the participation trophies. Everybody is equal. Well, no, that's crap. Because, Rich, you played college football.
For a very short time, actually, I'm wearing the sweatshirt, yeah.
Did it feel good to lose?
No.
Is
no,
it supposed
really
to? I mean, is it supposed to? Are you taught that losing is okay? When your dad was encouraging you to practice harder, to work harder, maybe it was to beat out another lineman for that position, okay? And it felt good when you did. I was a high school football coach in Florida where, in Florida and Texas, high school football is a really big deal. We've covered this on the show before. You can get to know me, grow to love me, love to hate me. Thank you. But what I will say is I used to coach. Everybody's motivated in different ways, but one of the biggest motivations is the feeling of victory. And when you can beat out another guy for a position, that feels good. It's not supposed to feel good to lose. And the participation awards were it's okay, Johnny. It's okay, Jamal. It's okay, Kimberly. It's okay, Kadisha. Don't worry. It's fine. You're the real winner on the inside because you fought and you battled. No, you lost. And it's going to be a really quiet bus ride home because you didn't dig down deep. You remember the quiet bus rides?
Yes. Yep. Had many of them. I never, a lot of the teams I played on weren't fantastic. And we had a lot of quiet bus rides. We also had some bus rides where we did nothing but get our asses chewed for a whole 45 minutes on the way home. And it sucks. Sure sucks, but it sure helps you on Saturday morning to get your butt in the gym and work harder and watch tape. And yes, I agree 100%. The participation trophies have ruined our young people and who are now coming up to be adults. And Stu, when you and I get old and I'm in the VA home and you're in some home in Wisconsin,
I've been told by my wife that I'm not going to be in a home. I've been told that she's gonna take care of me. She's gonna wipe my ass, all that. But you know my wife, and that fluctuates day to day. So I'm kind of I'm walking on eggshells around here, which but no, I understand. Okay, so you continue. You're gonna be in the VA home. I'm gonna be God knows where. And we're gonna, and these are the people that are gonna be running our country. These are the ones that are gonna decide our health care and all these things that you can't imagine putting them in charge of now. I mean, shit, we can't even send the kids to the grocery store with a list and hope that they bring back the right stuff. No, I know. Now, granted, my kids are younger than yours because you're a lot older than I am. And so you started having your kids a lot, when you were in your 40s, and so now they're they're grown but anyhow, my oldest is 8. He'll be 9 in November, and then I have a son that is 5 who will be 6 in November. By the way, a Veterans Day baby, 11/11. So make sure that you remember to wish Eli a happy birthday. That's a day that we can never forget. And then my daughter Reagan, who was the best surprise that ever happened to us, she will be 2 in a couple of weeks here, coming up on September 14th, 2 weeks from today. And so giving them responsibilities is, they have the small ones. Eli is the dog walker. Okay, and he does a pretty good job of that. He takes them out. He makes sure to walk them on the specific trail. Don't let them poop in the neighbor's lawn. If they do, make sure that you pick it up. And he does a really good job at that. But I would never ask Eli to go to clean out my truck. You know, I would never ask him to wash the windows in our house because I have no idea what chemical he would pick. Chemicals are not safe for kids that age because kids that age don't have a fully developed frontal lobe. I think in the males, our frontal lobe doesn't really fully develop until we're in our middle 20s. For females, it's a lot earlier than that, which is why traditionally females mature a lot quicker than males. But I don't think that I really had my stuff together until I was in my middle 30s. And I still am trying to figure out a lot of things. You have to be a student of the game, and you have to constantly be learning. We do that in our profession, chasing bad guys. Fugitives from justice who are wanted for violent offenses, that element is continuously evolving, and so our methods of apprehension have to be continuously evolving.
Yes.
The point that I'm trying to make here is that you're right. Giving responsibility to young people, whether they're males or females, is a huge part of their upbringing. Being able to be assigned a task and then conquer that task is very fulfilling to young people, very rewarding for young people, and makes young people want to then continue to do positive things because they're getting recognition for those positive things. And then ignoring the negative things is supposed to extinct a lot of that undesirable behavior. But we're not ignoring the negatives in our country right now. We are actually giving accolades to those that are out here doing this stuff. We are actually giving the attention to these people who are burning down police precincts. You're aware that just recently out west, a group of Antifa and Black Lives Matter thugs used cement and attempted to seal shut a police building occupied by police and then set fire to it.
Yes.
They had no problems burning police officers alive. They failed miserably. And I think I lost you here, Richard, and I'm going to try to get you back. But they failed miserably because they didn't put the correct proportionate amount of hopefully I can get him back here. They didn't put the correct proportionate amount of cement to there you are. They didn't put the correct proportionate amount of cement to water mixture, which is the only reason that they failed. So, but they were fully intent on burning police officers alive. Those are the things that get the media attention. The media.
And why are we playing patty cake with these son of a bitches? Why is it okay for them to seal cops into a goddamn building and attempt to kill them by setting it on fire? And then when they get out of the building, they're supposed to just, put handcuffs on them or tell them to go home. Why are they not whooping the shit out of these people?
Watch
I don't get it. And it's infuriating to me that you can watch your cops get sealed in a building and attempt to be burned alive, and they're not supposed to do anything about it.
We have very good sources inside of the Minneapolis Police Department due to the nature of our business, and we will never reveal our sources, but and you can not believe me if you want to, that's fine. But trust me when I say that they are reliable. And we heard from inside sources at the Minneapolis Police Department who had boots on the ground when the 3rd Precinct was set fire to. Previous to that happening, they had barricades and what's the razor wire called, Rich?
Constantina wire.
They had isn't it concertina?
Concertina wire. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I say Constantina wire. It sucks to handle. I know that. That's it.
They had it all set up. They had an impenetrable force field set up around them, and somebody from the command staff came down there and said, no, this looks like a war zone. You need to take this down. Perception is everything right now, and not looking like a military person, not looking like like a military force. That's more important than actually doing the job of the police. It's absolutely mind-blowing, mind-boggling, and totally sickening. This portion of PC Radio brought to you by American Pride Roasters Coffee. We've got another half a show yet upcoming here. Stick around, more PC Radio straight ahead. It's getting to be unbelievable around here, I'm telling you.
Get to know them. Grow to love them. Love to hate them.
Son of a bitch.
Stewie and Richie. PC Radio.
Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard here for Johnson Jewelers of Woodbury, Minnesota. Johnson Jewelers, yes, is located in Woodbury, Minnesota, which is a great thing for you and I, sir, because we can selfishly walk in there, take a look at what they have going on in the case, and say, hey, I like that one, I like that one, I like that one, and we are guilty of doing a lot of that. I wear Johnson Jewelers jewelry. That's a tongue twister. I wear the Big Johnson stuff, okay? And it looks great, and it's sturdy, and it's quality stuff. And there's never been a problem with it, but if you did have a problem with it, I'm sure that Karen and her people were wonderful people over there at the family-owned Johnson Jewelers would have no problems addressing that. If you have jewelry that's dingy and you want it clean, you can stop in there for that. But the most important thing that we need to discuss is the custom jewelry that Johnson Jewelers takes care of for you. So no matter where you are in the greatest country on the face of the planet, you can jump online to johnsonjewelers.com. You can get over there, you can have a couple of emails, a couple of phone calls, and you can tell those people over at Johnson Jewelers exactly what it is that you want. Maybe it's a bracelet, maybe it's an old stone that you have from grandpa, maybe it's a pendant from grandma. You want to wear it every day instead of shoving it under your pillow, shoving it under your mattress, or shoving it up your ass. None of those things are acceptable, which is why you need to get a hold of Johnson Jewelers. Visit johnsonjewelers.com. That's johnsonjewelers.com. That's johnsonjewelers.com.
Attention, liberal snowflakes. Caught you listening again.
Well, you happen to have caught me in a moment of self-pleasure.
Stewie and Richie. The Patriotically Correct Radio Show is on the Warrior Radio Network.
Welcome back to the second portion of today's Patriotically Correct Radio program. Brought to you by Johnson Jewelers and American Pride Roasters Coffee. I mentioned that we do have an amazing new partner coming up here, and we'll first talk about that wonderful business this upcoming Friday. If you, by the way, wish to participate in sponsoring or advertising on this highly acclaimed afternoon radio broadcasting program, don't hesitate to send an email directly to me, stu@thepcradioshow.com. That's stu@thepcradioshow.com. That's stu@thepcradioshow.com. American Pride Roasters Coffee is the only thing that I fill my cup with. It's bold, it's rich. Right now I'm drinking Ron's Sexual Chocolate. I still have to order the Rage blend, the Dominic Izzo's blend, and wondering when PC Radio is going to have our own. I asked you yesterday if you thought, or the other day, I don't remember, if you thought you might be able to come up with a name for our blend. Have you thought any more about that? I know Izzo has Rage because he's an angry ex-cop who he goes off on everybody. Ron's Sexual Chocolate, I mean, that's obvious. I mean, if you've ever watched Ron on the Daily Mojo, you've viewed him on Facebook, if you've listened to him on iHeartRadio, Mojo 50 Radio, you know that, I mean, Ron is basically he is the walking definition of sexual chocolate. So we know that. But any idea for Patriotically Correct Radio, Rich?
I think we could have two. I think yours could be Stu's White Mocha Blend, and mine could be Richard's Black Lavender Blend.
I don't like that one.
Yeah. Black Lavender, baby. That was my stage name back in the day, but that's a whole other conversation.
Stage name for what, by the way? What stage name did you have? I mean, I was a rapper. Everybody knows that. But what did you have a stage name for?
I dabbled in a little bit of onstage dancing, if you will, way back in the day when I was in shape.
Are you serious?
No. Let's move on.
Wait a minute now. We're gonna have to listen. Was there clothing involved with this?
Well, yeah, of course there was.
Did it come off?
Maybe. And you know what's interesting about that is that, like 6 years later, do you remember that show Robin Big with Rob Dyrdek and
yeah, of course
Big
I
Black?
Do. Yep.
He came out and was a dancer in one episode, and his name was also Black Lavender.
Big,
so
you mean?
That was quite interesting.
You're not talking about
Big
Rob.
Black was
okay.
Yeah, no.
Black Lavender and Black Lavender. It was an overload. Speaking of information overload,
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
It's absolutely face melting to think that this guy could be the most powerful man in the world, the leader of the free world, the president of the United States of America. It's beyond comprehension that people are actually going to get out and cast a vote for him. We've obviously discussed the fact that it's not a vote for him. 42% of likely Democrat voters know that and recognize that he won't finish his first term in office. My prediction is if he does get elected, tragically, that he will only have approximately 3 to 4 months in office before Mrs. Biden is faking the tears, going through boxes of Kleenex, and giving the speech about how the pervert can't fulfill the duties of the office of the presidency due to the dementia diagnosis. And I mean, listen to that. Here, play that one more time.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
So, I mean, this isn't the guy that they're voting for. Listen, there are people pulling the strings of this man. Okay, radical progressives have taken him over. We can't let them take over our country. And we are seeing that. We are at the apex of a civil freaking war. We are.
He's more of a puppet than any other candidate ever.
Historically, yes, he is. People see it. They know that, which is why Democrats are so miserable. Look at any Democrat in your social media feeds. I dare you to try to show me one example of a positive message. There's nothing. It's constant attacks. It's constant justification for criminal thugs burning, stealing, looting, robbing, assaulting, raping, killing. They're doing this in your cities, and Democrats are on board.
I think the only ones you're going to find, any Democrats that have a positive message, are the ones that are walking away from the party.
And there's a lot of them. There are good Democrats out there, a lot of them. And they're going to be required to appear on November 3rd. I think there's a lot of them that are scared. They're nervous about saying, yeah, I support Trump. You sent me a thing today. Here, let me just look at this. I'm going to pull it up. You sent this to me this morning, actually. You saw this on, I think it was your Twitter feed. Okay, somebody named Rick Robinson at RowdyRick73. Mr. President, I know you will likely never see this, but at Real Donald Trump, I want to go on record. I did not vote for you in 2016. In fact, I actively lobbied against you until the day you were sworn in. I want you to know that I would crawl over broken, burning glass to vote for you in 2020. There's going to be a lot of people like that. There are the people that you're seeing on the television are not representative of the majority of people. The people that you are seeing marching and shooting at cops in broad daylight and assaulting police officers by throwing garbage can covering grates at the back of the head of a Minneapolis sergeant who was hospitalized as a result of that attack. There were 2 officers down that night. By the way, rioting, burning, stealing, robbing, raping, shooting, pillaging over a guy who committed suicide, a murderer who committed suicide. Okay? These people are not representative of the majority of people in our country. I have to have you know that. And you cannot believe, by the way, that these people represent you. And you have to take a stand on November 3rd and understand the great responsibility that you hold. Okay, the responsibility to elect somebody who will properly represent the majority of people in our country. Not people like Jeremiah Ellison, who hates the police because his father is an alleged abuser of women, who, by the way, then was turned around and elected the chief law enforcement officer of the People's Republic Communist Minnesota as the attorney general, who, by the way, if Biden gets elected, I'm sure will be on the short list of people being considered for the attorney general of the United States of America.
Oh, boy.
We need people who are going to speak on behalf of 61-year-old Eddie George Gordon of Rush City, Minnesota, who died in a savage attack with a gunshot wound to the back of the head by the guy who then they rioted on behalf of due to misinformation that the police were involved in his death, and now are justifying that robbing, looting, stealing, pillaging, raping, burning, all that by saying that he would have never committed suicide had the police not aggressively pursuing him with their guns out. How dare them? And then following suit, the mayor of Minneapolis, accompanied by the weak, feckless, ineffective, traitor chief of police, Madera Arredondo, who stands next to him supporting this new use of force policy that would require officers to to write a use of force report for simply drawing their weapons. And we see this as being something that is effective in police policy. Less police equals more safety because, as we know, police are the problem. We shortly touched before the break on participation trophies being the start of this whole thing. I mean, that's the thing that I can put a finger on is the generations of millennials who feel so entitled to be doing these things. And there's an actual insurgency going on, a criminal, terroristic body of insurgents who are taking to the streets, attacking people. We have a 17-year-old white kid from Kenosha, Wisconsin, or from Illinois, who's being charged in Kenosha, Wisconsin for murder, for defending himself with a firearm after being chased by a mob of criminal terrorists, of thugs, taken to the ground, kicked and beaten with a skateboard over the head and had a gun pointed at him, and then and only then did he defend himself. And not recklessly, by the way, as a mass shooter, just carelessly spraying bullets into a crowd of people. But 100% of his rounds landed on their intended targets. He did the job, as Joe the cop will tell you, he did the job that the police should have been doing. Yeah. But instead they were standing way down the block, which, by the way, is where this kid ran to. Rittenhouse is who I'm talking about, Kyle Rittenhouse. This is where he ran to with his hands up after he defended himself, looking for the protection of the police who are sworn to protect his life as well as the lives of everybody else, who they are ignoring at no fault of their own, but because of the lack of leadership in police administrations, because of the lack of leadership in city offices by elected representatives who are there to represent everybody. These people do not represent everybody. As a matter of fact, they do not represent the majority. They only represent themselves and their own political gain. But we were talking about the participation trophies, which brought us to a conversation throughout the break about these thugs from the National Football League, who, by the way, will get none of my support. Somebody on my friends list of personal friends who I know from the town that I live in was talking about a recent, very prolific trade that was made to the Minnesota Vikings. My comment was, I could care less. Who was it?
Who cares? Yeah.
Do you know? Do you know who it was?
Some dude from Jacksonville. I don't give a shit. The Vikings
mouth.
gave him some trades or something. Who cares?
So the NFL, and it's really sad because I'm telling you, I used to host some really nice parties at my home. I used to do,
good food.
Good food. I used to smoke ribs all day. We would do pulled pork sandwiches. What else did we have? I mean, we've had it all at my place. We've had crab legs.
Apple crisp
made by the wife. You know, her meatballs, you love those.
Oh, boy, they're great.
Her spaghetti and meatball. I mean, so we've done some very good entertaining. A lot of beer drinking takes place. Spirits of all kinds, circulate throughout the room as we sit in front of my massive television and we watch our favorite. I used to subscribe to that very expensive. When it first came out, I think the NFL ticket on DirecTV was like $1,600. And I would pay it. And then, of course, charge none of you admission because I'm a selfless person who is a generous giver of all things. But to some people, I'm a total asshole, and that's fine. But what I was saying is, I used to really get excited about this. It was an event that I really enjoyed because it was a day for us to get away from all of the goings-on in America and turn off the Fox News channel, turn off the Communist News Network, turn off the All Barack and the New Barack channels, turn off MSDNC, and just focus on some guys playing a kid's game. And we recognize that they were getting paid millions of dollars to do it. They weren't getting compensated like police are, who are the real heroes in our country. And police aren't definitely getting compensated like these grown-ass thugs who are getting paid to play a kid's game. Think about the percentage of people that actually make it from Pop Warner football into the NFL or play even at the CFL levels or other, amateur football leagues trying to make it to that level. I mean, the percentage is just minuscule. It's tiny. And so we kind of, we recognize that these guys are freaks. I mean, the worst guy in the NFL is just a freak of nature and is one of the best athletes to ever play the game. They will get none of my support this year. And it actually started in the middle of last year. It started with Colin Kaepernick when he started, this kneeling thing and claiming this systemic racism in law enforcement and police brutality and kneeling before the flag and disrespecting the national anthem. He's disrespecting a group of people who have selflessly volunteered, by the way, without a draft, enlisted into the United States military that represent that very flag. You're one of them, Richard. He kneeled in disrespect to you.
Well, many will say that it's not in disrespect to the flag. It's not to disrespect the military or law enforcement or anybody for that matter, but yet it is one of the rights that were fought for him to kneel and use that time when we're supposed to stand, put your hand over your heart and respect your flag.
I recognize
whether you
that.
support the military or not.
Yeah.
Whether you support the military or not, it's all about just respect for the place in which where you come from. If you watch the Olympics, if you watch any sporting event over time, even Russia and Lithuania, they all stand for their flag as well. And this is not the time to protest or demonstrate or whatever you want to call it against police brutality, against the unethical treatment of animals because they taste so good or anything like that. Stand for a minute and 10 seconds for Christ's sake and honor the flag in which represents the place that you live.
I can understand, like you were saying, whether your opinion is unpopular or not, you have the freedom to express said opinion. I will always support that. I will always support protesters. I will always support organized disagreements and demonstrations against especially our government, because I'm an advocate for smaller government myself, and that's what makes me conservative in nature. I'm a little more libertarian when it comes to like gay rights and things like that, because I don't have any problem with gay people. They're good with me. But back to the NFL thing. I was reading this morning that NFL interest is down 58% since they took this Black Lives Matter stance. Look at video games, Richard.
Oh, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I play little video games here and there, and I think I was playing NBA 2K20 the other day, and I have since stopped playing it because when you go to customize your player, the first piece of clothing they offer you to put on your player for practices or whatever the hell it is a Black Lives Matter shirt or say their name shirt or an I Can't Breathe shirt. Bullshit. And I deleted it off my console.
We need to say the name of Eddie George Gordon one more time. That is a victim that was shot in the back of the head and the neck in an empty parking ramp on the streets of Minneapolis by a criminal thug who later took his own life, and then more criminal thugs rioted in the streets of Minneapolis, tearing down businesses of minority business owners who wanted to pursue the American dream when they came to America as foreign nationals, like the owner of Lotus, and then who stood there to protect his own business, and when confronted by these people, they laughed in his face and threw a brick through a family portrait. He should have shot him. That might sound controversial, but that is a justified use of deadly force. There's no way for him to flee safely, because if you turn your back on these people, do you really think that's when they pack up the most and take advantage of you? I was alluding to the Bongino thing. Bongino, after that speech, was confronted by a guy on a bike. And the guy on the bike was just riding next to he and his wife and wasn't really saying anything, but was just kind of there. And Bongino knew that this guy was a Black Lives Matter guy or an Antifa guy. And he was there to be an anti-demonstrator against the president's acceptance speech, which is fine until it turns into this. And as soon as the pack came, as soon as the guy on the bike pointed out the fact that he was next to Bongino, a public figure, the pack came. And then the pack mentality took over, and it was then and only then that the wussy on the bike started talking smack to he and his wife. And he called her a bitch-ass wife or something like that. Isn't that your bitch-ass wife? And Bongino, who's not a violent person, thank God for the guy on the bike, because he doesn't believe in the violence reaction. Now, if you want to bring violence to Bongino, you're going to get it back. I know that for sure. If you want to dance, he'll dance. There's no question about that. But how do you dance and defend your wife when you're surrounded by 30 people who have weapons that are saying that they're going to assault and kill you? You can't. And so it was he and his wife surrounded by these people, and then they started their rhetoric and their BS and a racist attack on him. And by the way, and on his wife, who's a Colombian immigrant. This is how foolish and how silly these people are. They're not even white people. Bongino's not white, and neither is his wife. But yet they're racists because they support the president. And
it all goes to show you, Stu, that it has nothing to do with the fact that Mr. Bongino was there to support the president. These assholes don't give a crap about anything that means anything at all. It's all about causing problems. It's all about disrupting, and it's all bullshit. All of it. And if people would be able to, like Mr. Bongino, mad respect to him for keeping his cool and just kind of killing the dude with kindness. But if folks just started and said, I had enough, I've had enough of this shit, and started taking the fight to these people,
it's coming.
I think that things would turn around a little bit quicker.
But then you get these people in the NFL, and you get these people. So, I kind of knew that the NFL was going to fall off the tracks. That was kind of expected. I was thinking to myself, God, please just don't do it. Just please don't do it. At least let the Packers, because I'm a Packer fan, at least let the Packers not do this. And then boom. And then Drew Brees apologizing for a statement in which he was correct, as pointing out BLM as racists. And then he later apologized for it. Much like Black Lives Matter and Antifa people. By the way, if you look at these pictures and if you look at these videos, you're going to see that in a majority of these things, the majority of the mob are white people. They're white people who are cornering people. Okay, so you got 30 or 40 white people, 3 or 4 black guys and gals cornering a white person by herself, a white female by herself, or with her small child, because that's no threat to them, because they're cowards. And so they will make this person then get onto their knees, and they will make this person raise their fist in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, the racist terrorist group of people. And if they refuse to do it, they assault them. And they threaten to kill them until they do it. This is an illegal act, 100%. Mm-hmm. And they're doing it without the threat of arrest or prosecution. This is terrorism by definition. It's what it is. So we fully expected the NFL people to go off the cliff and get on the deep board or on the diving board and dive directly into the deep end of this racist rhetoric and false narrative. We expected the NBA to do it because if the NBA guys, if they couldn't shoot a basketball, they'd be running from us. They're criminal thugs. They've been proving that year after year after year with their gun violence arrests and their gang affiliations and their narcotics and controlled substance distribution and use and possession. They've been doing it since Randy Moss ran over a traffic control director in the downtown district of Minneapolis. And they get away with it all the time. And, then he was a racist then because he called her a white bitch, and he got away with doing that, And so, this has been going. So we expected that from the NBA. We expected that from the NFL. And then the NHL went off the cliff. And now NASCAR is following suit. And then Goodyear Tires shot themselves in the ass by doing that. And how much business do you think Goodyear Tires is going to lose as a response to their racist crap? And good job and good on you, Mr. President, for exposing Goodyear Tires for doing that, because that may have gone under the radar, because what these people do in these businesses and in these political groups is they're able to target a certain demographic through Twitter, through Facebook, and our social media expert from yesterday will tell you that they can use particular hashtags and trending items that are trending only amongst, say, black people 18 to 34 years old that are currently residing in a specific metropolis. And then it shows up on their shit, and they look at it, and yeah, I know. And thank you very much. Here's me on my pedestal of privileged patriotism telling you to watch your mouth all the time, and then I'm getting all worked up. But and it is an emotional thing. Because everything that we use to escape this crap is now being infiltrated with this, and it's mentally draining. It is emotionally defeating. But we can't let it do that, Richard. People like you and I, and people like the listeners of this low-budget afternoon radio program, have to understand that these people do not represent the majority. And it's proven by the fact that interest in the NFL is down 58%. That's a big number. And
they own a day of the week for the season. But what you also find interesting, man, is that it's not just the NFL, it's not just the NHL, NBA, WNBA. The one good thing I've ever gotten from CNN was this list of sports leagues or whatever that are supporting this movement. It's in tennis. I was going to say I haven't seen it yet in golf, which is great because I watched a lot of golf.
So wait, the list that you're talking about from CNN, these are a list of professional sports agencies that are supporting Black Lives Matter, or that are against
the agencies and supporting and or just players by themselves.
All right,
but
go ahead.
Cricket, these professional teams in cricket are kneeling with a fist up.
Oh, mate.
Jacob Blake, Black Lives Matter on a golfer's shoe. I mean, it's tennis. Of course, you said NASCAR. It's everywhere. The MLS, beach volleyball, even. I mean, all these places are just, they have Jacob Blake and George Floyd posted everywhere. Do none of these people understand? Of course, the loss of life is tragic, but do none of these people understand what the hell is really going on here? Who these people were? I don't want to watch any of the shit. No. Golf was going to be my last ditch effort to support professional sports. And that's gone now too.
Golf.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Okay, because you said that the George Floyd's name or Jacob Blake's name was on the shoe of a professional golfer. Do we know who that golfer was?
We can find out in just a second.
All right. I'd like to invite him on the show. And also, by the way, the offer still stands and the invite is always open for John Thompson. He is a DFL candidate for a congressional district in the city of St. Paul that would represent half of, or the Minnesota House of Representatives that would represent half of the St. Paul's east side. And he was the guy standing outside of Bob Kroll's house. Bob Kroll is the president of the Minneapolis Police Federation, a 31-and-a-half-year veteran and a lieutenant with the Minneapolis Police Department who has served this city courageously for those 31 and a half years without a complaint that was ever sustained against him. But somehow he's a racist in the same way that Donald Trump is a racist. There's no proof of this. You can just call somebody a racist. The word is becoming watered down. I remember when the word carried some weight, but I'm a racist just for hosting this show. You're a racist, you black Jew. You're a racist over there in your all of your privilege. How many years do you have in the U.S. Army?
19.
19 years, and you're still in the Minnesota National Guard. You've been deployed a couple of times, multiple deployments. You've been injured and blown up overseas in conflict and in war zones. Why won't CNN? Why won't like local channels like here in Minneapolis, Fox 9, WCCO, CBS, KSTP, or any other of these lamestream media outlets tell you the truth? I just saw yesterday. You want to talk about who these people are that they're supporting? Coroner says George Floyd died of drug overdose, not police brutality. That was in the Washington Sentinel yesterday. And you try to discredit them all you want to, but we've seen copies of the coroner report, the medical examiner who said that he had a lethal amount of fentanyl and meth or one or the other in his system. He got out of the police car or out of his car, walking towards the police car, saying he couldn't breathe and that he was going to die before police ever laid a hand on him. These are the people that we choose to represent. The show seems to always go by way too fast. We don't have time to really dive into all the things. Maybe we should petition iHeart and Mojo 50 and OpsLens for a second hour in this show. What do you think? Maybe we need a couple of hours.
Yes.
What's your final word today, Rich?
Just out an hour ago, poor sperm quality linked to phone and laptop use. Men, keep that off your lap.
Great. Here's what's up to it. Here's what's down to it. Here's to any way you can get to it. Here, Richard, is to those that don't do it. May they be dragged to it, tied to it, or forced to it. But here's to us who do it, because we're the ones that's used to it. Remember to fly low and avoid the radar. And listen, one day they're going to come for the car. When they do, save the radio!
Broadcasting live from the highest cloud of privileged patriotism. The PC Radio Show is on Mojo 50 Radio.